Hi there, and welcome to this recording on clinical trial resources for COVID-19. COVID-19 is a respiratory disease which has been caused by the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus and has spread with fairly unprecedented speed around the world, affecting hundreds of thousands of people so far. As such, there are a large number of clinical researchers conducting clinical trials and adjusting ongoing clinical trials to react to the COVID-19 situation. And this presentation is to guide you through the resources that are available for researchers engaging in COVID-19 trials or those trials that are affected by COVID-19. I guess there's some people who are fairly new to clinical research at this time and could do with some guidance really about what resources are available. So we're going to look at regulatory guidance for ongoing trials, what's been released by the MHRA, EMA, FDA. Going to look at the MSSO, MEDRA medical dictionary terms that have been released related to COVID-19. Other resources from Clinical Data Standards Organization, CDISC, that are available to assist in COVID-19 research, and a quick view in the CDISC Interim User Guide that was released this week, which includes resources for public health researchers, guidance on collection and reporting of data of COVID-19, and a quick overview of the impact on ongoing trials here. So, in summary, really, the MHRA, the EMA, and FDA have all released guidance in the last week or two, advising steps to take for trials that may be affected by COVID-19. And in summary, the biggest theme in all of this guidance really is to protect those subjects in ongoing trials, regardless of indication, that could be affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. So I think the EMA document describes that all decisions to adjust clinical trial conduct should be based on a risk assessment by the sponsor. This is a GCP guideline, the good clinical practice from the ICH conference. And really the thing to remember is that subject safety always prevails, that we should protect subjects, we should anticipate disruption in clinical trials, we should anticipate withdrawals, unplanned withdrawals from clinical trials, and also should expect effect on drug accountability and whether subjects are actually going to be able to visit clinical trial locations for sponsor visits. Another element of this, of course, which is again traced back to the GCP, is that where additional procedures, where subjects involved in clinical trials have been subject to additional procedures and are reporting novel terms, we collect and report all of this data, be it a reason for termination, additional laboratory tests, procedures, vital signs, etc. So here are the links to the three guidances. Of course, many clinical trials spread all of these territories, and I'm sure there'll be guidance from other regulatory authorities in due course. But yeah, do follow the links and have a read of the documents. But remember, the key word in all of this is protect, is to protect subjects in ongoing clinical trials from the effects of COVID-19. In addition, there will be changes, of course, to the way that we want to report our data. And the MSSO, based in Sweden, have re-released their 2020 version of MEDRA. So MEDRA is a medical coding dictionary which allows us to identify and code in a standard way medical events and other procedures. So the version 23 was released in April 2020, and COVID terms have been added as an extra reference to the MEDRA 23.0 dictionary. So the recommendation from MSSO is to re-download the very latest version and implement this 23.0 plus COVID-19 edition. And the MSSO made a presentation about the changes to the dictionary, and there's a webinar and recording available on the page linked here. I'm a member of the CDISC UK network, which is designed to share information involved in clinical research on how to collect and present clinical data. We are aligned to CDISC, but of course this presentation is purely based on my understanding of documents I've read, and the presentation and views expressed do not represent CDISC, the MSSO, MHRA, EMA, FDA, or any sponsor companies. But CDISC gives a real head start to companies, particularly new people who are involved in clinical research and COVID-19 for the first time. CDISC works closely with pharmaceutical organizations around the world to develop standards to ensure compliance with regulatory guidelines and create clarity in clinical research. It was loads of education, lots of webinars available, and you can sign up, become a member of CDISC, and have access to a huge amount of standards that can fast track your clinical research. Some of the benefits for implementing these standards could include efficiency, enhanced traceability, increasing the speed of information, and improving data quality. The standards can be used to facilitate data sharing, and of course reusing standards could reduce costs, increase predictability, and streamline clinical trial processes. So first port of call if you're engaged in COVID-19 research or working on any clinical trials that may be affected should be cdisc.org. So the CDISC standards include many therapeutic areas which may be relevant to COVID-19 research. The CDISC organisation have already published the Vaccines Therapeutic Area User Guide, a Cardiovascular User Guide, and a Virology Therapeutic Area User Guide. And with incredible speed have published earlier this week their COVID-19 Interim Therapeutic Area User Guide. So this will be used to collect and report data in COVID-19 trials. But as mentioned, also includes guidance for those conducting trials that may be affected just by the COVID-19 situation. Users need a CDISC subscription to access the foundational standards. So the foundational standards, CDASH, SEND, SDTM, show us how to collect with many references and examples, including terminology, how to collect and report on clinical data. So the therapeutic area user guides listed here are additional to those foundational standards and should be used alongside the foundational standards, but provide a lot of information. One of those links is wrong. Provide a lot of information anyway to researchers starting research in these trial areas. In addition to the existing therapeutic area user guides, and in conjunction again with the foundational standards, CDISC has released version 1 of the COVID-19 Interim User Guide to assist collection and reporting of data for COVID-19 clinical trials. It was released on Tuesday of this week, 21st of April 2020. The Interim User Guide for COVID-19 is available freely on the CDISC website without subscription and describes the most common biomedical concepts relevant to COVID-19, includes the necessary metadata to represent such data consistently, including terminology, as I mentioned, CDASH, the collection standard, and SDTM, which we use to report data collected. The CDISC standards specify how to structure the data and provide terminology to help us represent it, but they don't specify precisely what data should be collected or how clinical trials should be conducted or assessed. So this release, version 1.0 of the CDISC Interim User Guide, includes WHO annotated blank CRS for data collection, terminology and SDTM mappings for COVID trials, along with the guidance for ongoing trials affected by COVID-19. As I mentioned, this is put together at incredible speed by a dedicated task force of industry experts, including former members of the CDISC UK network and many researchers in pharmaceutical companies and non-profit research organisations around the globe. It's an incredible piece of work which is completed in absolutely a record time. So brilliant work there by the COVID-19 User Guide Task Force. You can check the names on the link there. So Quick summary: the interim user guide includes collection for information to assist in the collection and reporting of COVID-19 related tests, including risk factors, signs and symptoms and onset of disease, additional laboratory test results, diagnostics and virology, vital signs and urine output, and also changes and examples to the way that we collect medications, respiratory findings, cardiac events, hospitalizations and procedures, and some information on recording the administration of vaccines and questionnaires, ratings and scales. The interim user guide can be found here and includes a number of examples, really high quality examples showing additional non-standard variables, the way that we should use the non-standard and existing variables to collate and report information additional to the original intention of the clinical trial. So this is in addition to what you may have been collecting already, but also provides guidance on how to structure a clinical trial to study COVID-19. At the same place on the CDISC website, we'll also find resources for public health researchers, which includes like blank CRFs from the World Health Organization, metadata, SDTM mappings and terminology for use in COVID-19 trials. And then lastly, the guidance also includes information for those studies which are being disrupted by COVID-19. So with clinical trial sponsors around the world having to assess the impact on their existing trials, in line with those guidances from the regulatory authorities to protect those clinical trial subjects, to report the data as collected and in a standard way as possible, in line with good clinical practice. Sponsor companies around the world have been, for example, adding a new reason for discontinuation to an end of study page in an electronic data capture tool. Maybe redeploying those electronic data capture tools to include non-standard variables for collecting COVID information, such as the AE procedure variables, and also which is the AE epidemic indicator, I think. And of course, we'll need new terminology to include additional lab test procedures and possibly vital signs. And in addition to all of that, to make sure that we're reporting this information consistently and correctly, companies are re-implementing their MEDRA 23.0 release to include the new COVID terms. So I hope that some of the links in this presentation have been useful. And on behalf of the CDISC UK Network Committee, thanks for listening, for checking out the information and joining the links. If you're interested in joining the CDISC UK Network, there is no charge. We exist purely to share information and answer questions on the CDISC standards. So if you're interested in joining or would like to contribute to the organising committee, then please email the address on the screen. All right, thanks very much for listening. Take care.